Imagine waking to a world cloaked in a delicate silvery fog, where the air feels heavy with a quiet that seems to remember itself. Each step you take on the dew-kissed ground echoes a rhythm so familiar, as if your feet have traced this path 1,000 times before. The trees, shrouded in mist, lean in as silent witnesses, their branches curling like question marks against the pale dawn. Have you been here before? Or is this moment simply a shadow of one you've yet to live? There's a strange comfort in the repetition, a sense of being held by something eternal, yet beneath it lies an unease, a whisper that asks if you're truly moving forward or merely caught in an endless dance with time itself. This is the enigma of loops, those invisible threads that weave through our reality, tying moments together in patterns we can neither fully grasp nor escape. Think of a quiet morning like this one, where every breath feels like a memory of the last, where the world seems to hum with a melody you've heard in dreams. We walk through life assuming progress, believing each day pushes us towards some unseen horizon. But what if our steps are not a line, but a circle? What if the very fabric of existence is woven in loops, repeating not just in time, but in the chambers of our consciousness, in the stories we tell, in the ache of our unspoken questions? Consider the way a river flows, carving its path through stone over centuries, only to return to the sea and rise again as rain, falling back to the same earth it once knew. Is this not a loop, a cycle so vast we mistake it for freedom? Or think of your own heartbeat, that steady drum echoing through the hollows of your chest, a rhythm that began before you could name it and will cease long after you've forgotten its sound. Are we too bound by such unseen repetitions, caught in currents we cannot see but can always feel? This idea of recurrence stretches beyond the natural world into the very essence of how we experience life. There's a haunting beauty in the thought that every dawn might be a mirror of the first, that every goodbye might carry the weight of one already spoken. In ancient tales, wise ones spoke of time not as an arrow, but as a serpent biting its own tail, an ouroboros of endless return. They saw repetition not as a prison, but as a teacher, a reminder that to live is to revisit, to learn again what we thought we knew. Yet there's a shadow to this wisdom, an uncertainty that gnaws at the edges of our understanding. If life loops back on itself, are we ever truly new, or are we doomed to play the same role in a story written long before we arrived? Take a moment to reflect on this. Close your eyes if you wish, and let your mind wander to a moment in your own life that feels like it's happened before. Perhaps it's the way the light falls through a familiar window, or the sound of a voice that stirs something ancient in your soul. Can you feel the weight of repetition there? The strange comfort and subtle dread of knowing you've walked this path, even if you cannot say when. And so we linger in this foggy morning of the mind, where every step seems both a beginning and a return. Perhaps the loop is not a trap, but a mystery inviting us to look closer, to ask if we are the ones walking the circle, or if the circle is walking us. There's a quiet allure in not knowing, in letting the question hang like mist over still water. For now, let us simply stand here, in this moment that might be the first or the 1,000th, and listen to the silence that seems to know us better than we know ourselves. Imagine a village nestled in a valley so remote that the world seems to have forgotten it exists. The air is still, heavy with the scent of ancient pine, and the sun casts a pale, unchanging glow over cobblestone streets that have known the same footsteps for centuries. In the heart of this village stands a clock tower, its face looming over the square like a silent sentinel. But there is something wrong with this clock. Its hands, frozen at precisely 3:17, refuse to move. No tick, no tock, no whisper of gears grinding forward. Time, in this forgotten place, seems to have stopped altogether. And yet the villagers go about their days, ploughing fields, baking bread, murmuring the same conversations, as if nothing is amiss. What would it mean to live in a moment that never advances, to be trapped in an eternal now? As you wander these streets in your mind, Picture the blacksmith hammering the same iron, the children chasing each other in endless loops around the well, their laughter echoing as if recorded and replayed. The villagers do not seem to notice the stillness, or perhaps they have grown so accustomed to it that they no longer question the unchanging rhythm of their lives. But for an outsider, the weight of this frozen time is suffocating. Each glance at the clock tower feels like a reminder of something lost, something that should be moving but isn't. It raises a question that lingers like mist over the valley. Is time truly a force that governs us? Or is it merely a story we tell ourselves to make sense of change? If the hands of this clock never budge, does time still exist here? Or have these people stumbled into a reality where progress is an illusion? Consider the possibility that time, as we know it, is a human invention, a construct we've woven to measure our fleeting existence. We mark the hours, the days, the years, as if by naming them, we can control the inevitable march toward an end. But what if, in this village, they have unknowingly escaped that burden? Or perhaps, more disturbingly, what if they are imprisoned by it? There are tales whispered among the elders here, passed down through generations, of a day when the clock stopped, a day of great sorrow, though no one remembers why. Some say a curse fell upon the village, binding it to a single moment as punishment for a forgotten sin. Others believe the clock is merely broken, and time marches on beyond these hills, leaving the villagers behind like ghosts, unaware of their own haunting. Take a moment to reflect on this. What would it feel like to wake each morning to the same hour, the same light, the same unchanging world? Would you grow to find comfort in the predictability, or would the weight of repetition crush you beneath its sameness? In our own lives, we often speak of time as a river, flowing ceaselessly forward, carrying us towards some unknown destination. But what if that river were dammed, its current halted in an endless pool of stillness? Would we even notice? Or are we too caught in moments we relive without realizing? Habits, routines, thoughts that circle back on themselves like the hands of a clock that only pretend to move. As the sun dips low over the village, casting long shadows that seem to stretch into eternity, the clock tower looms larger still. Its face, unyielding, offers no answers, only the silent challenge of its frozen hands. Perhaps the truth lies, not in whether time has stopped here, but in how the villagers have learned to live within this eternal moment. They do not rush, for there is nowhere to go. They do not mourn the passing of days, for no days pass. And in their quiet acceptance, there is a strange sort of peace, a surrender to a reality most of us would flee from. But the question remains, hovering like the mist that never quite lifts from this valley. If time is not a force beyond our grasp, if it is merely a cage we build with our own perceptions, then what does it mean to be free of it? Or are we, like these villagers, forever bound to a clock that refuses to move, whether we see its hands or not? Imagine for a moment that you're walking down a quiet street at twilight, the air heavy with the scent of autumn leaves, when a face in the crowd stops you cold. You've never met this person, yet every feature, their sharp, searching eyes, the slight tilt of their head, feels like a memory etched into your very being. Your heart quickens, not with recognition, but with an unshakable sense of having lived this exact moment before. This is the enigma of déjà vu, a fleeting glitch in the fabric of reality that whispers of something beyond our understanding, a replay of a life we've never lived. What is it about these moments that unsettles us so deeply? Is it the way they blur the line between past and present, making us question the very nature of time? Or is it the quiet suspicion that we are not as singular as we believe, that somewhere, in some unseen corner of existence, there is an echo of ourselves, living this same encounter over and over? Consider the story of a woman named Clara, who, since childhood, has dreamt of a man in a worn grey coat standing beneath a lamppost on a rainy evening. In her dreams, he always turns to her, his expression unreadable, before vanishing into the mist. Years pass, and the dream becomes a distant curiosity, until one rainy evening, as she hurries through the city, she sees him. The same grey coat, the same unreadable gaze, standing beneath a lamppost, just as she'd seen 1,000 times in her sleep. She freezes, caught between the urge to approach and the fear of unraveling something she cannot comprehend. Was this man a fragment of her imagination bleeding into reality? Or had she somehow crossed paths with a shadow from another life? Déjà vu invites us to peer into the cracks of our existence, to wonder if what we call reality is merely a thin veil over something far stranger. Some philosophers and scientists suggest these experiences are tricks of the mind, a misfiring of memory where the brain mistakes the present for the past. But others whisper of more mysterious possibilities, parallel worlds brushing against our own, where every choice we didn't make plays out in endless repetition. What if Clara's dream was not a dream at all, but a glimpse into another version of herself, bound to meet this stranger in a loop that spans beyond her lifetime? What if déjà vu is a signal, a quiet nudge from the universe, reminding us that we are not as linear as we imagine, that somewhere, in some unseen dimension, every moment we live is both new and ancient? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt the weight of a moment that seemed to belong to someone else? A place, a conversation, a fleeting glance that carried the ache of familiarity without reason? Sit with that feeling. Let it linger in the stillness and ask yourself, what if this echo is trying to tell you something? What if it is a thread connecting you to a life unlived, a story unwritten? As we linger on Clara's encounter, let's wander deeper into the mystery. Perhaps her stranger is not a person at all, but a symbol, a marker of something she has yet to face, replaying itself until she is ready to listen. In many cultures, such repetitions are seen as omens, warnings from the cosmos that we are veering off course or perhaps circling back to a truth we've forgotten. The ancient Greeks spoke of the moirai, the fates, who wove the threads of destiny in patterns that often looped upon themselves, forcing mortals to confront the same lessons until they were learned. Could déjà vu be our own thread, tugging at us to look closer, to see what we've missed? There is a quiet unease in knowing that our most intimate experiences might not be ours alone. If every moment of déjà vu is a whisper from a parallel existence, then who are we, truly? Are we the sum of our choices? Or are we merely one note in an infinite chorus, playing the same melody across countless realities? Clara stood beneath that lamppost, rain soaking through her coat, and chose to walk away. But somewhere, in some other corner of time, did another Clara stay? Did she speak to the stranger, unraveling a mystery that would change everything? And, if she did, does that choice ripple back to us, carried on the strange, fleeting wind of déjà vu? Let this thought settle over you like a soft fog, obscuring the edges of what you thought you knew. In the end, perhaps the true power of these moments is not in finding answers, but in embracing the questions they provoke. Déjà vu is a mirror held up to our existence, reflecting not just who we are, but who we might have been, who we might yet become. So the next time you feel that shiver of recognition, that quiet echo of the unlived, pause, listen, and wonder what other lives are whispering to you through the cracks of this one. Imagine for a moment, standing on the edge of a vast, ancient desert, under a sky that seems to hold the weight of eternity. The wind carries whispers of stories older than memory, tales of a time when the world was seen not as a straight path, but as a wheel, ever turning, ever returning. Long before our modern clocks and calendars, there were civilizations who understood existence as a ceaseless cycle, a rhythm that bound both gods and mortals to its unending spin. What if they were right? What if time, as we know it, is not a line stretching into the future, but a circle that brings us back to where we began? Let us journey to a forgotten tribe, nestled in the shadow of towering mountains, where the people believed their lives were woven into the fabric of an eternal return. Their myths spoke of a great wheel of fate, each spoke representing a life, a season, a story that would repeat through countless ages. Every harvest, every birth, every death was not an end, but a marker on the wheel's arc, destined to come around again. Yet, among these people, there was a whispered longing, a desire to step off the wheel, to break free from the repetition that held them captive. Their elders crafted rituals under the pale light of a crescent moon, chanting incantations meant to sever the threads of fate. They offered gifts to unseen forces, danced in patterns that mimicked the breaking of a circle, and burned sacred herbs to cloud the eyes of destiny itself. But did they succeed? Or were their efforts, too, just another turn of the wheel, a rebellion, already written into the cycle? Consider the weight of their belief, the quiet desperation to escape a fate that feels both comforting and suffocating. Is it possible that their rituals were not acts of defiance, but part of the very loop they sought to shatter? Think of your own life, those moments that seem to echo with familiarity, as if you've walked this path before. Are we, like this, ancient tribe, caught in a rhythm we cannot see, performing the same dances, speaking the same words, unaware that we are actors in a play that has run for millennia? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the question linger like a shadow at dusk, neither demanding an answer nor fading away. Their story stirs a deeper inquiry into the nature of repetition itself. If time is a wheel, as these ancient minds believed, then every joy and every sorrow is destined to return. But what does that mean for our sense of purpose? If every triumph is fleeting, only to be replayed, and every wound is healed, only to be reopened, does our struggle hold meaning, or is it merely the turning of a mechanism we cannot comprehend? The tribe's rituals, though lost to the sands of history, echo in our own quiet rebellions, our attempts to forge new paths, to write endings that defy the script. Yet, there is a strange beauty in their vision of return, a kind of solace, in knowing that nothing is truly lost, that every goodbye circles back to a hello in some distant turn of the wheel. As we linger with this forgotten people, let us ponder their unspoken fears. What if escape is an illusion? What if the very act of seeking freedom is the chain that binds us tighter to the cycle? Their chants may have faded, their fires long extinguished, but the question they posed remains, a question that hums beneath the surface of our own restless nights. Are we running towards something new? Or are we simply tracing the same arc over and over, in a dance as old as the stars? Let this thought settle into the quiet corners of your mind, like a stone dropped into still water, rippling softly as the world turns onward, perhaps in a circle, perhaps in a line no one can see. Imagine a shape so peculiar, so deceptive in its simplicity, that it defies the very notion of a beginning or an end. A surface that twists upon itself, folding into an eternal path where every step forward is also a step back. This is the Mobius Strip, a curious enigma of geometry that seems to whisper secrets about the nature of reality itself. What if our existence, the very fabric of what we call life, mirrors this endless loop? What if, in our relentless pursuit to map the boundaries of understanding, we find ourselves trapped in a riddle with no exit? Picture a lone mathematician, hunched over a cluttered desk in a dimly lit room, surrounded by stacks of yellowed papers and half-erased equations. His name is Elias, a man consumed by a singular obsession, to chart the entirety of existence, to reduce the chaos of the universe into a perfect, comprehensible formula. Night after night, he traces lines and curves, his pencil trembling as it dances across the page. He believes that somewhere within the numbers, within the angles and infinities, lies the key to unraveling reality's deepest truth. But as the weeks turn to months, and the months to years, something strange begins to emerge. His equations, once linear and progressive, start to bend. They twist and fold, mirroring the very shape he has come to study, the Mobius Strip. Every solution leads him not to a conclusion, but back to the starting point, as if the universe, itself is mocking his efforts with a quiet, eternal laughter. What does this endless loop mean for Elias and for us? Is reality truly a structure we can measure, a puzzle we can solve? Or is it something far more elusive, something that slips through our grasp the moment we think we've captured it? Consider the Mobius Strip, not just as a mathematical curiosity, but as a metaphor for our own journey. We strive for progress, for understanding, believing that each step takes us closer to some ultimate destination. Yet, how often do we find ourselves revisiting the same questions, the same doubts, the same unanswerable mysteries? Are we moving forward, or are we merely circling a path that has no end? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt caught in a loop of thought, a problem or idea that haunts you, returning no matter how far you try to run from it? Perhaps, like Elias, you've sought answers in logic, in reason, only to find that the deeper you dig, the more you uncover questions. Instead of clarity, his story is not just one of mathematics, but of the human condition itself. We are all, in some way, cartographers of our own existence, sketching maps of meaning in the hope of finding our place. But what if the map itself is flawed? What if the terrain of reality refuses to be bound by straight lines and finite edges? Elias, in his quiet desperation, begins to see the Mobius Strip not as a challenge to conquer, but as a mirror. He sees his own life reflected in its endless curve, every triumph looping back to a struggle, every insight dissolving into a new mystery. He wonders if understanding is not a destination, but a process, an eternal dance along a path that never resolves. And in this realization, there is a strange kind of peace, not the peace of answers, but the peace of surrender to the idea that some truths are not meant to be grasped, only experienced. So let us linger here for a moment, in the shadow of this endless shape. What boundaries do we impose on our own understanding? And what might happen if we let them dissolve? Could it be that the loops we perceive as prisons are, in fact, invitations to see the world not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived? As Elias sits at his desk, staring at the twisted strip of paper before him, he no longer seeks to escape its riddle. Instead, he traces its curve with a trembling finger, as if touching the very edge of infinity, wondering if the loop is not a trap, but a home. Imagine, for a moment, drifting into the quiet realm of sleep, only to find yourself in the same place you've been countless times before, a landscape so familiar, yet so unnervingly out of reach. The same winding path stretches before you, the same shadowed figures linger just beyond recognition, and the same whispered words echo in a language you almost understand. Night after night, this dream returns, unbidden, like a song stuck on repeat in the depths of your mind. Why does this story replay itself? What is it trying to tell you? Or perhaps, what are you refusing to hear? Let us linger in this mysterious space where the boundary between waking and dreaming blurs, and explore the phenomenon of recurring dreams, those haunting narratives that seem to trap the mind in a loop it cannot escape. There is a certain weight to these visions, a gravity that pulls us back to the same scenes, as if our subconscious is a weary traveler circling a forgotten landmark, searching for something lost. Consider the story of a man who, for nearly 4 decades, dreamed of a single, unchanging night. In his slumber, he always found himself standing on the edge of a vast, misty lake under a sky heavy with twilight. Each time, a small boat drifted just out of reach, its occupant obscured by the haze. He would call out, his voice swallowed by the silence, and awaken with a start, his heart racing with a longing he could not name. Over the years, the dream became a companion, both a comfort and a curse, as if his mind was rehearsing a moment he had yet to live, or one he had long forgotten. What drives such repetition in the theatre of our dreams? Is it merely the mind's attempt to process unresolved fragments of our days, piecing together puzzles we've left unsolved in the light? Or could it be something deeper, something more primal, a signal from a part of ourselves that exists beyond time, whispering of a truth we are not yet ready to face. Some ancient cultures believed dreams were portals, bridges to other realms where the soul could wander and return with messages. In this view, a recurring dream might be less a glitch and more a persistent knock at the door of our awareness, urging us to listen, to remember, to prepare. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever found yourself caught in a dream that returns night after night, as if it holds a secret just beyond your grasp? What might it be asking of you? Let us wander further into this enigma through the lens of the man by the lake. As the years passed, he began to notice subtle shifts in the dream, details he swore were never there before. One night the boat seemed closer, its wooden frame scarred with marks he felt he should recognize. Another night, the figure aboard turned slightly, revealing the faintest outline of a face, achingly familiar yet impossible to place. These changes, though small, filled him with a quiet dread. Was his mind weaving new threads into an old tapestry, or was the dream itself alive, evolving in ways he could not control? This raises a question that lingers like mist over water. Are our dreams merely reflections of our inner world? Or do they possess a will of their own, guiding us toward a destination we cannot yet see? In the quiet hours, when the world is still and the mind slips into its hidden corridors, recurring dreams become a mirror held up to our deepest selves. They ask us to confront what we avoid, to revisit what we thought we'd left behind. Perhaps they are rehearsals, as some thinkers suggest, preparing us for a reality we've yet to encounter. A moment of joy, of loss, or of revelation that waits just beyond the horizon of our waking lives. Or perhaps they are echoes, resonating from a past we've buried, demanding to be acknowledged before we can move forward. The man by the lake never found his answer, but he came to see the dream not as a prison, but as a quiet companion on his journey, a reminder that some questions are meant to be carried, not solved. As we drift through this thought, let it settle gently in your mind. What dreams have returned to you, painting the same scenes across the canvas of your sleep? What might they be trying to teach you or to warn you of? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the weight of these questions linger, like the last notes of a melody fading into silence as we rest in the mystery of the mind's endless loops, wondering if they are chains or keys to something yet unseen. Imagine for a moment a story that refuses to end, a narrative caught in an invisible snare, where every dawn mirrors the one before, and every choice feels like an echo of a decision already made. There is something both comforting and unsettling in this idea, isn't there? A tale that loops, that traps its characters in a cycle of repetition, as if time itself has stumbled and forgotten how to move forward. This is the quiet enigma we find woven into the fabric of some of humanity's most haunting stories. Literature and film, where the concept of a time loop becomes a mirror to our deepest fears and unspoken yearnings. Think of a man waking to the same day over and over, as if the universe has pressed pause on his existence. His alarm blares at the same hour, the same song plays on the radio, and the same faces pass him by with uncanny precision. At first, it might seem a curiosity, a puzzle to solve. He tries to break the pattern, altering his words, his steps, even his thoughts. But the day resets, indifferent to his struggle. This is the heartbeat of a story like Groundhog Day, where a seemingly mundane life becomes a labyrinth without an exit. But beneath the surface, humor or frustration, lies a profound question. What does it mean to be caught in such a cycle? Is it punishment, a cosmic jest, or perhaps an invitation to look deeper into the mundane, to find meaning in the repetition itself? And then there are the labyrinthine tales of Jorge Luis Borges, where time and reality twist into knots that defy untangling. In his stories, characters wander through libraries of infinite books or cities of endless mirrors, their lives doubling back on themselves in ways that blur the line between memory and prophecy. A man might read a story only to realize he is its author, or follow a path only to discover he has walked it 1,000 times before. Borges seems to whisper to us through these intricate loops. Are we truly the architects of our fate? Or are we merely reading lines from a script written long ago? His words linger like a fog, obscuring the boundary between what is real and what is replayed, inviting us to wonder if our own lives might contain hidden repetitions we've yet to notice. These narratives, whether light-hearted or labyrinthine, seem to tap into something primal within us, a fear of stagnation, of being trapped in a life devoid of progress. We long for growth, for forward motion, yet there is a strange allure in the loop, isn't there? A comfort in the familiar, even when it binds us. Perhaps these stories are not just about being caught, but about what we do within the confinement. Do we rage against the cycle, or do we seek to understand it? Do we search for the lesson hidden in the repetition, or do we surrender to its rhythm, finding a kind of peace in the predictability? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt as though a chapter of your own life was playing on repeat? A pattern of choices, a recurring struggle, or even a quiet routine that feels both safe and suffocating? What do these stories of loops awaken in you? A desire to break free, or a curiosity about what might be learned if you stayed just a little longer within the cycle? There is something almost sacred in these tales, as if they hold up a mirror, not just to the characters, but to the human condition itself. They ask us to consider whether meaning is found in the new, the uncharted, or if it hides in the spaces we've passed through 1,000 times. A looped day, a repeated story. They become canvases for exploring regret, redemption, and the quiet hope that even in repetition, we might uncover something unseen. Perhaps the true terror of the loop is not the cycle itself, but the possibility that we might miss the beauty or the lesson it offers, that we might walk the same path endlessly without ever truly seeing it. And so, as we linger on these stories, we are left with a gentle unease, a whisper of mystery. Are these loops mere fictions, inventions of creative minds? Or do they echo something deeper, something woven into the fabric of existence itself? Do they speak to a fear of being stuck? Or do they remind us that even in the most relentless repetition, there is a chance to awaken, to see the familiar with new eyes? The answer, like the loop, seems to circle back on itself, inviting us to ponder, to drift, to wonder in the stillness what it means to live a life that might, in some hidden way, be repeating its quiet song. Imagine for a moment a quiet autumn evening, the air crisp and tinged with the scent of fallen leaves, where a lone figure stands at the edge of an ancient village. This person, a traveler of both roads and time, has journeyed far, not just across miles, but through the very fabric of what should be impossible. They've come to meet someone, a figure from a past so distant, it feels like a story told by someone else. But as they stand there, gazing into the weathered face of their own ancestor, a shiver crawls down their spine. What if this meeting, this single act of reaching back through the years, unravels everything they are? What if, in altering even a whisper of the past, they erase the fragile thread of their own existence? This is the heart of a riddle that has haunted thinkers for generations, a puzzle so tangled it seems to mock the very notion of logic. It's known as the grandfather paradox, a thought experiment that arises when we dare to imagine traveling through time. If you were to journey backward and prevent your own grandfather from meeting your grandmother, perhaps through some small, seemingly harmless interference, would you cease to exist in that very moment? Would the fabric of reality tear apart, unable to reconcile the contradiction of your presence? Or does the universe, in its infinite mystery, have some hidden mechanism to prevent such a collapse? Some unseen hand that guides the threads of cause and effect? Picture our traveler now, sitting across from their ancestor by a flickering fire, the night deepening around them. Every word they speak feels like a stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples they cannot predict. They ask themselves, if I tell this person to take a different path, to avoid a certain meeting, am I writing myself out of the story? And yet, The ancestors' eyes hold a strange familiarity, as if they already know the weight of this encounter, as if time itself is whispering secrets through the generations. The traveler wonders if their very presence here is not an accident, but an inevitability, an event already woven into the tapestry of what has been and what must be. This paradox forces us to confront something unsettling about the nature of choice and causality. We like to believe we are the authors of our own lives, that our decisions carve out a unique path through the wilderness of possibility. But what if every choice loops back to a predetermined outcome? What if, by trying to change the past, we only fulfill the conditions that made our journey necessary in the first place? The traveler, staring into the fire, feels the weight of this question. They imagine a reality where their attempt to alter history is the very event that ensures it unfolds as it always did, a closed circle, a knot in time that cannot be undone. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt the weight of a decision as though its consequences were already echoing before you even acted? Have you ever wondered if the choices you make are truly yours, or if they are merely echoes of a script written long ago? Consider, too, the deeper implication of this paradox. If traveling back in time and altering events creates an impossible contradiction, does that mean the past is immutable, a stone tablet etched beyond our reach? Or does it suggest that time is not a straight line at all, but a labyrinth of branching paths where every version of reality exists somewhere, waiting to be stumbled upon? Our traveler ponders this as the fire dims, the ancestor's voice fading into the crackle of embers. They realize that their very existence might hinge on a fragile balance, a harmony between what was and what is, a balance they dare not disturb. And yet, isn't there something poetic in this fragility? The idea that every moment, every fleeting interaction carries the weight of all that might follow. The traveler looks at their ancestor one last time, seeing not just a face from the past, but a mirror of themselves, a reminder that we are all bound by the choices of those who came before us, just as we bind those who will come after. In this quiet village, under a sky untouched by the rush of modernity, they feel the pulse of time itself, a rhythm that hums with both warning and wonder. As the night stretches on, the traveler sits in silence, grappling with a final, haunting thought. If they could change the past, would they? Or is the true paradox not in the mechanics of time, but in the human heart? Our endless longing to rewrite what has been, even as we fear losing what we are. The answer, like the flickering firelight, remains just out of reach, a mystery that invites us to ponder the delicate dance of cause and consequence, of memory and possibility, long after the embers have turned to ash. Imagine for a moment a dimly lit laboratory in the dead of night, where the hum of flickering fluorescent lights blends with the faint scratch of a pen on paper. A lone scientist sits hunched over a desk cluttered with equations and diagrams, their eyes tracing invisible patterns in the air, as if they could see the very fabric of reality unraveling before them. There's a question that haunts their sleepless mind, a riddle that refuses to be solved. What if the universe itself is nothing more than a loop, a piece of code replaying endlessly, with us as unwitting players in its script? This isn't mere fantasy, but a thought that emerges from the strange and shadowy realm of quantum physics, a field where the rules of the world we think we know dissolve into uncertainty. In this domain, particles exist in multiple states at once, as if they are caught in a dance of infinite possibilities, neither here nor there until observed. It's as if reality itself hesitates, looping through every potential outcome before collapsing into a single truth. But what if that collapse never fully happens? What if, at the deepest level, existence is a series of overlapping loops, a tapestry of probabilities that never quite resolves? Consider the implications of this. If particles, the very building blocks of everything, can flicker between states, defying the neat linearity of cause and effect, then might our own lives mirror this strange behavior? Are we too caught in loops of possibility, replaying choices and moments in ways we cannot perceive? The scientist in our quiet laboratory ponders this as they stare at a computer screen displaying a simulation of quantum behavior. Each run of the program yields a slightly different result. Yet there's a pattern, a subtle repetition that emerges over time. It's as if the simulation knows it's being watched, as if it's teasing the observer with the suggestion that nothing is truly random, that everything is bound by an unseen rhythm. This leads to an even more unsettling thought, one that keeps our scientist awake long after the world outside has fallen silent. What if reality itself is a simulation, a vast and intricate program running on a cosmic computer, its code filled with loops that repeat ad infinitum? In such a world, free will might be nothing more than an illusion, a cleverly designed subroutine that makes us believe we're choosing when, in truth, we're simply following a path already written. Every decision, every fleeting thought, every heartbeat. Could they all be part of a sequence that has played out countless times before and will play out countless times again? Take a moment to reflect on this. Close your eyes, if only for a breath, and imagine your life as a fragment of code, a single line in an endless algorithm. Does it feel freeing to think that your struggles and triumphs might be part of a larger design? Or does it weigh on you? The idea that your choices might not truly be your own. There's no need to answer now. Just let the question linger, like a faint echo in the quiet of your mind. Our scientist, too, wrestles with this uncertainty. They lean back in their chair, gazing at the ceiling as if it might hold the key to unraveling this mystery. They think of the famous thought experiment of Schrödinger's cat, where a creature is both alive and dead until the box is opened, its fate suspended in a loop of possibility. In quantum terms, observation forces reality to choose, to break the loop and settle into one state. But what if no one is observing? What if the universe, left unwatched, simply cycles through every version of itself, an eternal rehearsal of what could be? This idea blurs the boundaries between science and mystery, between the measurable and the unknowable. It suggests that perhaps we are not just participants in reality, but part of its very mechanism, entangled in a web of loops that defy comprehension. Our scientist scribbles a final note in their journal, a question that will likely haunt them for many sleepless nights to come. If reality is a loop, are we the ones trapped within it, or are we the ones who keep it spinning? As the first light of dawn creeps through the laboratory window, casting long shadows across the room, there's no answer to be found. Not yet. But in the stillness, there's a strange comfort in the unknown, in the possibility that beneath the surface of our orderly lives lies a deeper rhythm, a quiet pulse of repetition that binds us to the cosmos. Perhaps in time, we'll understand whether we are free or scripted, whether we are creators or creations. For now, though, let the mystery remain, a gentle whisper in the dark, inviting us to wonder. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the edge of a vast, silent desert under a sky so clear it feels like you could reach out and touch the stars. The air is cool, the world is still, and in that stillness, a question begins to form, unbidden, in the depths of your mind. What if this life, this very moment, is not a singular journey but a path you've walked before, countless times, and will walk again, forever? What if every choice, every sorrow, every fleeting joy is destined to repeat in an endless cycle? This is the haunting thought that Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher who peered into the abyss of existence, dared to confront with his concept of eternal recurrence. It is an idea that does not merely challenge our understanding of time, but asks us to weigh the value of our lives against the possibility of their infinite repetition. Picture a lone wanderer, their boots crunching softly on the dry earth of that desert, their shadows stretching long and thin under the waning light of dusk. They are not seeking a destination, not racing against the sun, but simply walking, lost in thought. In their mind, a quiet storm brews, a question that Nietzsche posed with unflinching clarity. If a demon were to whisper to you in your darkest hour that you must live this life again and again, every moment exactly as it was, with no alteration, would you curse that fate or embrace it as a gift? The wanderer pauses, their gaze lifting to the horizon, where the last sliver of daylight bleeds into night. They think of their past, of the nights spent weeping over losses that still ache, of the mornings when laughter felt like a miracle, of the mundane days that slipped by unnoticed. Could they bear to relive the pain, knowing it would return as surely as the dawn? Could they find meaning in the repetition of even the smallest joys? Or would the weight of inevitability crush them? This idea of eternal recurrence is not merely a thought experiment, it is a mirror held up to the soul. Nietzsche did not claim that life does repeat, not with scientific certainty or religious dogma. Instead, he offered it as a test, a way to measure whether we have lived in such a way that we could affirm every moment, even the darkest, as worthy of eternity. The wanderer kneels in the sand, tracing circles with a trembling finger, as if to map out the shape of their own existence. They wonder if the scars they carry are burdens to be shed, or badges of a life fully lived. They ask themselves if they have loved deeply enough, risked boldly enough to say yes to this life again and again, without hesitation. Take a moment to reflect on this. What would your answer be if that demon whispered to you tonight? Would you recoil at the thought of repeating your mistakes? Or would you nod, quietly resolute, ready to face it all once more? The desert wind picks up, carrying whispers of sand across the dunes, and the wanderer rises, their face set against the coming dark. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence forces us to confront the raw texture of our existence, not as a fleeting story with a neat beginning and end, but as a loop, a rhythm, a dance that might never cease. It asks us to consider whether true freedom lies not in escaping repetition, but in transforming it through our will. If life is a cycle, can we imbue each turn with such fierce intention that even the inevitable feels chosen? The wanderer takes another step, their silhouette blurring into the twilight, and in that moment, they seem to embody the paradox at the heart of this philosophy, that to live fully may mean to accept the weight of eternity, not as a prison, but as a canvas on which to paint the same masterpiece, over and over, with ever-deepening shades of meaning. As the stars begin to pierce the sky, one by one, the question lingers, soft and persistent, like the echo of a distant bell. Is repetition a curse that binds us to suffering? Or is it a gift that allows us to refine who we are, to perfect the art of being human? The wanderer does not answer, not yet. They simply walk on into the vast unknown of night, carrying the weight of a life that might be lived 1,000 times over, and perhaps, in that quiet resolve, finding a strange, unshakable peace. Imagine for a moment that the world you know, the life you lead, is nothing more than a string of code, a meticulously written program running on some unseen server beyond the edges of comprehension. What if the odd coincidences, the strange repetitions in your days were not mere chance, but glitches, tiny errors in a vast, invisible system? Picture yourself sitting alone late at night, the glow of a screen casting faint shadows across the room as you begin to notice something unsettling. The same events, the same fleeting moments seem to play out again and again, as if the fabric of your reality is caught in a subtle, endless stutter. This is the story of a coder named Elias, a quiet soul who spent his days unraveling complex algorithms and his nights lost in the labyrinth of his own thoughts. Elias had always believed in the order of things, in the logic that underpinned every line of code he wrote. But one autumn evening, as the rain tapped softly against his window, he began to see patterns in his own life that defied explanation. A conversation with a stranger at a cafe echoed one he'd had weeks before, down to the exact words. A song on the radio looped back to the same verse every time he turned it on, as if refusing to move forward. Even his dreams seemed to replay the same fragmented scene, a dimly lit street, a figure turning away just out of reach, night after night, with no resolution. At first, Elias dismissed these repetitions as tricks of a tired mind, but as the days turned to weeks, the patterns grew sharper, more insistent. He began to document them, scribbling notes in a worn journal, mapping out the eerie symmetry of his existence. The more he observed, the more he felt a creeping dread settle into his bones. What if his life was not his own? What if he was merely a character in a simulation, his choices scripted, his every step a repetition of some predetermined loop? The thought gnawed at him, unraveling the certainty he had once held so dear. He wondered if free will was an illusion, a comforting lie woven into the code to keep him from seeing the truth. Consider for a moment the weight of such a realization. If reality itself is a simulation, then every joy, every sorrow, every fleeting connection might be nothing more than data points, replayed endlessly for some unknown purpose. Are we sovereign beings, crafting our own paths? Or are we trapped in a matrix of unseen design, doomed to repeat the same lines, the same mistakes, until the program decides otherwise? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt the uncanny sense that a moment has happened before, not as déjà vu, but as something deeper, something orchestrated? Elias, driven by a restless need for answers, began to dig deeper. He scoured forums in the shadowy corners of the internet, reading accounts of others who claimed to have seen similar glitches, people who swore they had lived the same day twice, or who encountered the same stranger in impossible places. He studied theories of simulation, from ancient philosophers who mused that the world was but a dream of the gods, to modern thinkers who proposed that advanced civilizations might create digital realities so convincing that their inhabitants would never suspect the truth. The more he read, the more he felt the boundaries of his world tremble, as though the very air around him was pixelated, fragile, ready to dissolve at the slightest touch. One night, unable to sleep, Elias sat before his computer, staring at lines of code he had written months ago for a simple program. As he scrolled through the text, he noticed something peculiar, a loop he hadn't intended, a fragment of code that repeated itself unnecessarily, creating a tiny, pointless cycle within. The larger system, his heart raced as he wondered if this was a mirror of his own existence. Was he too caught in an unintended loop, a glitch in a program far grander than he could fathom? He leaned back in his chair, the hum of the computer filling the stillness, and whispered to himself a question that had no answer. If I am scripted, who wrote me? Let this thought linger in the quiet of your mind. What if the repetitions in your own life, the familiar faces, the recurring challenges, are not random, but evidence of a deeper design? What if every choice you make is merely a rerun of a decision already made countless times before? There is a strange, melancholic beauty in the idea that we might be bound by invisible code, yet there is also a quiet terror in the loss of agency it implies. Elias never found his answer, and perhaps neither will we. But in the stillness of this moment, as the world outside fades into shadow, ponder the possibility that reality itself might be a simulation, and we, its unwitting players, caught in a loop we cannot see. Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the weight of the unknown settle over you like a soft, heavy mist. Are you truly free, or are you a fragment of code repeating a story already told? Imagine a quiet, grey afternoon, the kind where the air feels heavy with unspoken words, and every shadow seems to hold a memory too tender to touch. There's a house at the edge of a small town, its windows dim, its walls weathered by years of silent longing. Inside, someone sits by a worn wooden table, a single photograph in their hands, a frozen moment of laughter, of a face that no longer fills the rooms with warmth. Day after day, they return to this image, to the same ache, as if time has curled in on itself, refusing to move forward. Grief, you see, is a loop, a relentless circle of pain that draws us back to the same wound, over and over, as if healing were a language we've forgotten how to speak. Think of how loss carves a path in the heart, a path so familiar that every step feels inevitable. The mind replays the last words, the final touch, the moment when the world tilted and never righted itself. It's not just the memory that haunts, it's the way it repeats, unbidden, in the quiet hours before dawn, or in the sudden stillness of a crowded room. Each replay is a return to the epicenter of sorrow, a place where the past is not a distant shore, but a living, breathing presence. And yet, isn't there something strangely comforting in this repetition? As if by revisiting the pain, we keep the lost alive, if only in the fragile space of our thoughts. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever found yourself caught in such a cycle, clinging to a memory not because it heals, but because it's all that remains? This loop of grief is not merely a personal prison, it's a universal rhythm, a tide that ebbs and flows through every human story. Consider the ancient rituals of mourning, the way civilizations across time have circled back to the same gestures, keening songs, offerings to the departed, the lighting of candles as if to guide a soul that lingers in the loop with us. Even in our modern solitude, we return to these patterns, perhaps without realizing it. We visit graves on certain days, whisper names into the emptiness, or keep a belonging, a scarf, a letter, as a tether to what was. Is this repetition a burden, or is it a bridge? Does it trap us in suffering, or does it weave the past into the fabric of now, making us whole in some unspoken way? Now, let's wander deeper into this thought. Imagine that grief's loop is not a cage, but a spiral, subtle in its ascent. Each return to the pain might carry us a fraction higher. Though, we may not notice the shift. The photograph on the table, once a source of raw agony, begins to evoke a softer ache over time, a memory of joy beneath the loss. The voice that once echoed with unbearable absence starts to hum with quiet gratitude for the moments shared. Could it be that healing is not about breaking free from the cycle, but about learning to walk its curve with a lighter step? Or are we fooling ourselves, mistaking endurance for progress, forever bound to revisit the same hollow ground? There's a mystery here, one that defies easy answers. Grief, in its endless repetition, mirrors the cycles of nature itself. The seasons, that turn, the tides that pull, the way a tree sheds its leaves only to grow them anew. Are we too meant to shed and regrow within this loop, finding renewal in the very act of returning? Or does the human heart, unlike the natural world, yearn for a linearity that grief denies us? A straight path forward, unmarred by echoes of what's gone? Sit with this question for a moment. Let it linger in the stillness. What does your own heart seek in the face of loss? To escape the circle, or to find meaning within its bounds? As the afternoon in that quiet house fades into dusk, the person at the table sets the photograph down, not with finality, but with a kind of tender resignation. They'll return to it tomorrow, or the day after, drawn back by a force as inevitable as gravity. And in that return, there's neither defeat nor victory, but simply the rhythm of being human, a rhythm that hums with both pain and love, forever intertwined. Perhaps the loop of grief is not something to conquer, but something to inhabit, a space where we learn to hold the weight of absence until it becomes a part of who we are. What do you carry in your own loops of remembrance? Let the question drift with you, like a leaf caught in a gentle, endless current. Imagine, for a moment, a dusty old library, its shelves sagging under the weight of countless volumes, each one a silent witness to the rise and fall of empires, the clash of swords, and the cries of revolutions. In the dim light of a flickering lamp, a lone historian sits hunched over a weathered manuscript, tracing lines of ink that seem to curl into spirals, mirroring patterns he's seen before. Too many times before. There's a quiet unease in the air, a whisper of something inevitable, as if the pages themselves are murmuring a warning. what has been will be again. Have we, as a species, been caught in an unseen current, dragged through the same cycles of triumph and ruin, unable to break free from history's relentless grip? Consider the arc of ancient Rome, an empire that stretched across continents, its marble columns gleaming under a sun that seemed destined never to set. Yet beneath the glory, seeds of collapse were sown: overreach, corruption, internal strife. The streets that once echoed with the cheers of victory later rang with the chaos of betrayal, until the city fell not to a single enemy, but to the weight of its own flaws. Now, turn your gaze to the modern era, to nations wielding power on a scale Rome could scarcely dream of. Do we not see the same shadows creeping in? The same hubris in our towers of glass and steel, the same fractures in our societies, the same whispers of discontent that grow louder with each passing year. It's as if we are reading from a script written millennia ago, each generation stepping into roles they did not choose, playing out a tragedy whose ending we already know. But why does this happen? Is it mere coincidence that wars erupt over the same ideals, that empires crumble under the same burdens, that revolutions spark with the same fiery promises only to dim into disillusionment? Or is there something deeper, something woven into the fabric of human nature itself? A compulsion to repeat, to chase the same dreams and fall into the same traps? Perhaps we are not so different from the tides, pulled by forces we cannot see, returning to the same shores no matter how far we think we've drifted. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt in your own life a strange familiarity in moments of conflict or change, as if you've walked this path before, not in memory, but in some deeper, unspoken way? Let us wander further into this spiral, through the lens of a historian's quiet obsession. Picture him now, in that library, his fingers trembling as he uncovers a parallel so striking it chills the soul. He reads of the Peloponnesian War, a clash between Athens and Sparta that tore the ancient world apart, driven by pride and fear of the other's power. Then, with a sinking heart, he turns to records of the Cold War, a modern standoff between titans, where the same pride, the same fear, dangled humanity on the edge of annihilation. The weapons changed, the landscapes shifted, but the heartbeat of the struggle remained eerily the same. Night after night, he pores over these accounts, mapping cycles of peace shattered by ambition, of unity undone by greed. And in the silence of those long hours, he begins to wonder, are we doomed to this repetition, like a melody stuck in an endless refrain, or do we hold the power to rewrite the tune? This question lingers like a mist over a forgotten battlefield, obscuring the line between fate and choice. If history is a spiral, are we merely passengers, carried along its curves? Or are we the architects, unknowingly building the same flawed structures over and over? Think of the countless voices that have cried out for change, the dreamers who swore to break the cycle, only to see their visions swallowed by the same old currents. Yet, even in this repetition, there is a strange beauty, a rhythm to our failures, a poetry in our persistence. Perhaps the spiral is not a prison, but a mirror, reflecting back to us the truths we refuse to see. Take a moment to reflect on this. What patterns do you see in the world around you, in the stories of nations, or even in the quiet corners of your own life? Are they echoes of something ancient, or are they whispers of something yet to come? As the historian closes his book, the lamp flickers one last time, casting long shadows across the room. He leans back, gazing at the ceiling as if it might hold the answers he seeks. Outside, the world turns, oblivious to the weight of its own history, marching forward, or perhaps in circles, toward a future that feels both new and impossibly old. And in that stillness, the question remains, soft and unyielding. Are we trapped in a spiral of our own making, or is there a way to step beyond it, to trace a new path through the ashes of what has been? The answer, like the spiral itself, seems just out of reach, curling away into the unknown. Imagine a quiet room at the edge of dusk, where the light fades into a soft grey and the air feels heavy with unspoken weight. In this space, a single figure sits, staring at a glass half empty, or perhaps half full, though the distinction no longer matters. The pull is there, a silent, relentless tug, drawing them back to the same craving, the same fleeting escape, the same hollow promise of relief. It's a cycle so familiar, it feels etched into the very marrow of their bones, a loop that tightens with every turn. What is it about this repetition, this endless return to a known pain, that holds such power over a life? How does something so destructive become a rhythm we cannot seem to break? This is the haunting dance of addiction, a personal spiral that mirrors the quiet, unseen currents of nature itself. Think of a river that carves its path through stone, returning to the same grooves over centuries, not because it chooses to, but because the path has been worn so deep, there is nowhere else to flow. So it is with the mind and body caught in this cycle. Each repetition reinforces the groove. Each lapse deepens the rut. Our story unfolds with someone who once believed they could outrun this current, a person whose name we need not know, for their struggle whispers to something universal. They wake each morning with a resolve as fragile as dawn's first light, promising themselves that today will be different. But as the hours slip by, the weight of memory presses in. The memory of that fleeting high, that momentary erasure, of pain, a siren call that drowns out the quiet voice of reason. And so they return, not out of weakness, but out of a kind of inevitability, as if the loop itself were a force greater than their will. But let us linger on this thought for a moment. Is this cycle truly inevitable, or is it a construct of our own making? Philosophers have long wrestled with the tension between fate and free will, between the patterns we seem destined to repeat and the power we might hold to shatter them. In ancient Greece, the Stoics spoke of mastering one's desires, of finding strength in restraint, as if the mind could build a dam against the river's pull. Yet, even they acknowledged the weight of habit, the way it shapes us into creatures, of repetition, almost against our knowing, our unnamed soul in this story. They've tried to build such a dam, haven't they? They've sought help in whispered confessions to friends, in the sterile glow of a counselor's office, in the trembling promise of a new day. And yet, the river finds its way through the cracks, eroding resolve with the patience of time itself. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt a pull so strong, a pattern so ingrained, that it seems to move through you rather than from you? Consider, too, the body's role in this loop, for it is not just the mind that craves. Science tells us of neural pathways, of dopamine's quiet alchemy, how each return to the substance or behavior rewires the brain to seek it again, as if the very architecture of thought conspires against escape. It's a kind of biological repetition, a loop written into flesh and synapse, where the body becomes both prisoner and warden. Our figure in the quiet room, they feel this intimately. Their hands tremble not just from need, but from the memory of need, a physical echo of every past surrender. And as they reach once more for that glass, that pill, that fleeting solace, there's a part of them that wonders, am I choosing this, or is this choosing me? It's a question that hangs in the air like mist, intangible yet suffocating, pointing to a deeper mystery about the nature of control. Are we ever truly the authors of our actions, or are we merely tracing lines already drawn by forces we cannot see? Yet, within this spiral, there is a flicker of something else. Hope, or perhaps defiance. For even in the tightest loop, there are moments of clarity, fleeting windows where the pattern becomes visible, where the river's path can be seen from above. Our person knows these moments. They've felt them in the stillness after a sleepless night, when the weight of their choices presses close, and a voice whispers that there must be another way. It's a fragile thing, this whisper, easily drowned out by the roar of habit, but it persists, like a seed buried beneath stone, waiting for the smallest crack to break through. Philosophically, this speaks to a profound tension. The human capacity for self-destruction, yes, but also for self-recreation. If we are bound by loops of our own making, might we not also hold the power to unravel them? The ancient Buddhists spoke of samsara, the endless cycle of suffering. But they also spoke of liberation, of stepping off the wheel through awareness and will. Could it be that the key lies not in escaping the loop, but in seeing it for what it is, a pattern, not a prison? As the dusk deepens outside that quiet room, our figure sits with this question, the glass still untouched, though the pull remains. They are caught in the space between surrender and resistance, between the comfort of the known and the terror of the unknown. And perhaps that is where the true struggle lies, not in breaking the loop outright, but in daring to stand at its edge, to look into its depths, and to ask if they are more than the sum of their repetitions. Take a moment to reflect on this. What loops hold you in their silent grip, and what might it mean to stand at their edge, just for a breath, and wonder? In this quiet, in this pause, there is no answer, only the weight of the question, hanging, like the last light of day before the night claims it all. Imagine for a moment, standing at the precipice of the unknown, gazing into a void so vast it swallows not just light, but time itself. There, at the edge of a black hole, the universe seems to whisper secrets it has kept for eons. Secrets of cycles, of endless returns, of loops that defy our fragile understanding of reality. What if, in that unfathomable darkness, time does not march forward as we believe, but bends, twists, and folds back upon itself? What if, at the heart of this cosmic enigma, we find not an end, but a repetition, a rhythm as ancient as the stars? Picture an astronaut, alone in the infinite silence of space, drifting toward the event horizon of a black hole. Their craft is a mere speck against the backdrop of that devouring abyss, a boundary beyond which no signal, no story, no memory can escape. As they approach, the laws of physics as we know them begin to unravel. Time, that relentless river we've always trusted to flow in one direction, slows to a crawl. Seconds stretch into eternities. The astronaut's thoughts, once sharp and linear, blur into a haze of wonder and dread. They wonder if crossing this threshold means stepping into a moment that replays forever, an eternal loop where every heartbeat, every fleeting thought, echoes without end. Are they entering a prison of time, or are they simply returning to a place they've always been? Consider the nature of a black hole itself, a singularity where the fabric of space-time collapses into an incomprehensible point. Scientists speculate that within this mysterious core, the very concept of before and after may cease to exist. Some theories whisper of time looping back on itself, a cosmic Ouroboros swallowing its own tail. If this is true, does it mean that everything drawn into a black hole, every particle, every fragment of light, every story of a life, replays its existence in an unending cycle? Is the universe, in its darkest corners, revealing to us a truth we've long ignored? That repetition is not a flaw, but the very pulse of creation? Take a moment to reflect on this. Imagine yourself as that astronaut, hovering at the edge of oblivion. What would you feel, knowing that time itself might be curling around you, trapping you in a dance with no finale? Would you resist, clinging to the illusion of progress, or would you surrender to the rhythm, letting the loop carry you into the unknown? Let us linger on this idea of hidden rhythms, for black holes are not mere voids. They are orchestrators of the cosmos. Their gravity bends light, warps space, and perhaps even rewinds the clock of existence. Ancient cultures gazed at the night sky and saw in its patterns stories of recurrence, gods reborn, seasons returning, life spiraling through endless cycles. Could it be that these celestial giants, these black holes, are the ultimate keepers of that ancient truth, that they hold within their grasp not just matter, but the very essence of time's eternal return? As our astronaut drifts closer, their final transmission crackles with static, a voice half lost to the void, murmuring a question that haunts us all. Are we too caught in a loop we cannot see, orbiting a destiny we cannot escape? The event horizon looms now, a boundary as much philosophical as it is physical. Crossing it, the astronaut may never return, yet their journey compels us to wonder about our own place in the grand cycle. Do black holes mirror something within us? A tendency to revisit, to repeat, to spiral through the same patterns of thought and being? Or are they a glimpse into a reality far stranger, where every end is merely another beginning, and every farewell a quiet promise to meet again? As the darkness closes in, there is no answer, only the soft hum of the universe, a rhythm, a loop, a mystery that invites us to listen, to ponder, and to drift into the unknown with a quiet, curious heart. Imagine a mountain hidden in the mist, somewhere far beyond the reach of time's hurried march. At its peak, a solitary monk sits in stillness, his eyes closed, his breath a quiet rhythm against the vast silence. Before him lies a mandala, an intricate circle of sand and color, painstakingly crafted over days, each grain a whisper of intention, each curve a reflection of something endless. This mandala is no mere art. It is a map of existence itself, a symbol from ancient Eastern philosophies where life is not a straight path but a wheel, a cycle, a pattern that turns and returns without cease. What does this monk see as he meditates upon it? Is he seeking to escape the loop of life's repetitions? Or is he learning to dissolve into its eternal spin? Picture him now, this keeper of quiet truths, as he traces the mandala's edges with his mind. In his tradition, life is samsara, a ceaseless round of birth, death, and rebirth, where every soul is tethered to the wheel until it finds release. Each turn of the cycle brings familiar sorrows, familiar joys, as if the universe itself is a song replaying its only melody. The monk has seen this in the villagers below, in their daily toils that mirror their fathers and their fathers before them. He has felt it in his own heart, in the way old pains resurface like echoes of a forgotten dream. And yet, as he sits, there is no anguish in his stillness. There is a question, soft as the wind that stirs the mountain pines. Is peace found in breaking free from this loop, or in surrendering to its rhythm? Consider for a moment the mandala's design, how its circles fold into one another, how no beginning can be found, no end discerned. In the teachings of the East, this is not a trap, but a mirror. The mandala reflects the nature of all things, the seasons that spiral from spring to winter and back again, the tides that rise and fall under the moon's unyielding pull, even the breath that fills us and leaves us in an endless dance. The monk ponders this as his fingers hover over the sand, not touching, only feeling the weight of what it represents. Could it be that resisting the cycle is the true suffering? Could it be that to embrace the loop, to see every return as a chance to refine, to understand, is the path to liberation? Take a moment to reflect on this. Imagine your own life as a mandala, a circle drawn by unseen hands. What patterns do you see repeating in your days, your thoughts, your longings? Do they feel like chains, or do they whisper of something deeper, something you are meant to learn? The monk's meditation deepens as the mountain grows colder, the air thinning with the approach of dusk. In his mind, he recalls a story passed down through generations, a tale of a wanderer who sought to escape the wheel of samsara. This wanderer climbed peaks and crossed deserts, searching for a teacher who could sever the cycle. At last, he found a sage who offered no spells, no shortcuts, only a single truth. The wheel turns because you cling to it. Let go, and you will see it was. Never there, the wanderer sat with this riddle for years, until one day, in the quiet of a forest clearing, he laughed, a sound as free as the wind. He had not escaped the loop. He had simply stopped seeing it as a cage. And so the monk wonders, as the last light of day brushes the mandala with gold. If true freedom is not a rebellion against repetition, but a harmony with it. Perhaps the cycle of existence is not a prison to flee, but a canvas to paint upon. Each turn a chance to draw closer to the center, to the stillness that lies beyond all motion. He breathes deeply, feeling the mountain beneath him, the sky above, and the endless wheel within. Does he resist or does he flow? Does he seek an end or does he cherish the turning? As the night begins to weave its dark threads over the peak, the monk opens his eyes. The mandala remains, a fragile testament to the eternal. Tomorrow, he will sweep it away as tradition demands, returning the sand to the earth. But tonight, it holds its silent lesson. Life is a circle, yes, but within its curve lies the infinite. And in that thought, there is a strange, unshakable peace. Imagine for a moment that you're holding a device in your hands, a portal to an endless stream of images, words, and sounds. It hums softly, pulling you in with a quiet, relentless rhythm. Every swipe, every tap, feels like a step forward, yet somehow you find yourself returning to the same ideas, the same arguments, the same curated slices of reality. It's as if an invisible hand is guiding you, looping you back to where you began, without you ever noticing the circle forming. Around you, welcome to the digital labyrinth, a place where algorithms weave invisible threads, binding us into cycles we can scarcely perceive. In this modern age, our lives are increasingly shaped by the silent architects of technology. These algorithms, crafted in sterile offices far from our sight, are designed to know us better than we know ourselves. They study our habits, our desires, our fleeting curiosities, and then they mirror them back to us, not as a reflection of who we are, but as a carefully sculpted version of who we might become if we stay within their grasp. Picture a man sitting alone in the dim glow of his screen late at night, scrolling through an endless feed. He seeks something new, a spark of inspiration, a break from the mundane. Yet with every refresh, he is fed the same voices, the same outrage, the same comforting echo of his own preconceptions. Hours pass, and he remains unaware that he has been walking in a circle, trapped in a digital echo chamber of his own making, or rather, of someone else's design. But let us pause and consider the deeper layers of this phenomenon. What is it about these loops that hold such power over us? Is it merely the cleverness of code, the precision of data, that keeps us scrolling through the night? Or is there something within us, a primal yearning for familiarity, for the safety of the known, that makes us so susceptible to these invisible cycles? Think of how we are drawn to repetition in other forms. Songs we play on repeat, stories we retell, rituals we perform without question. Perhaps the digital loop is not so different. It taps into a fundamental part of our nature, a desire to return to what feels like home, even if that home is a cage built of ones and zeros. Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you found yourself caught in such a cycle, scrolling without purpose, consuming without thought? Did you feel free in those moments, or did you sense, even faintly, the weight of unseen walls closing in? Now, let us imagine the unseen forces at play. Beyond the screen lies a vast machinery of intent, a network of calculations designed not just to predict, but to shape. These algorithms are not neutral. They are storytellers, weaving narratives that keep us engaged, keep us clicking, keep us coming back. They reward us with dopamine for staying within their loop, for affirming their predictions, for becoming the version of ourselves they have anticipated. And in doing so, they narrow our horizons, subtly nudging us away from the unfamiliar, the challenging, the transformative. Our man in the dim glow of his screen, he does not see the world expanding before him. He sees only the reflection of his past choices, polished and presented as if it were the only truth worth knowing. Yet there is a quiet unease that lingers beneath this seamless repetition. What are we losing when we surrender to these digital cycles? Are we trading the vastness of human experience for the comfort of a tailored reality? Consider the paths not taken, the voices not heard, the ideas that lie just beyond the edge of the algorithm's reach. There is a whole universe of thought and wonder that exists outside the loop. But to access it, one must first recognize the pattern, and then dare to step beyond it. But how does one break free from a cycle so subtle, so seductive, that it feels like freedom itself? This is the paradox of our digital age. We are connected as never before, yet we risk becoming more isolated within our personalized bubbles. We are offered endless choice, yet those choices are often preordained by forces we cannot see. And so our man in the dim glow continues to scroll, caught between the illusion of progress and the reality of repetition, unaware of the invisible threads that bind him. Perhaps he will awaken one day, set the device aside, and seek a world beyond the screen, a world of raw, unfiltered experience, where the loops are broken by the jagged edges of life itself. Or perhaps he will remain, content in the cycle, lulled by its rhythm, never questioning what lies on the other side. Take a moment to reflect on this. What loops have you woven into your own life through the quiet hum of technology? Are you exploring new horizons, or are you circling back to the same familiar ground, guided by an unseen hand? Let this question linger as you drift through the stillness of this thought, pondering the invisible cycles that shape us all. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a quiet, dusty attic, filled with forgotten treasures and half-remembered whispers. Somewhere in a shadowed corner, there's a worn wooden box, and inside it, a single memory plays over and over, as if caught on an endless reel. It's not just any memory, but one so vivid, so piercing, that it feels more real than the present. Why does the mind cling to certain fragments of the past while letting others slip into the void? What is it about this one day, this one fleeting hour that refuses to fade? Picture an elderly soul sitting by a frost-kissed window in the twilight of their years. Their hands tremble slightly as they hold a faded photograph, the edges worn from decades of touch. Their eyes, clouded with time, seem to see beyond the glass, beyond the present, to a single day in their youth. It was an ordinary day, or so it seemed then. A summer afternoon, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine, laughter echoing from a nearby field, and the warmth of a loved one's hand in theirs. Nothing monumental happened, no grand declarations or earth-shattering events, and yet, this moment has become a loop, a sacred repetition in the theatre of their mind. Night after night, as sleep creeps in, they return to that field, hear that laughter, feel that warmth. Each replay is both a comfort and a quiet ache, as if the heart knows it can never truly go back. Why does memory do this? Why does it carve certain days into stone while others crumble to dust? Is it chance? Or is there a deeper design at play? A hidden hand selecting which pieces of our lives will echo through the corridors of time? Perhaps the mind, in its infinite complexity, is a storyteller, weaving narratives not just to remember, but to protect. What if these loops of memory are shields? Fragile barriers we build against the vast, unyielding darkness of oblivion. That summer day, with its jasmine and laughter, might not just be a memory, it might be a sanctuary, a place to hide when the weight of all the forgotten years presses too heavily. Consider this: memory is not a passive archive, but an active force, a curator of our existence. It chooses what to replay, what to polish until it gleams, and what to bury in shadow. But who or what guides that choice? Are we truly the masters of our own past? Or are we merely passengers, carried along by currents we cannot see? There's a quiet mystery here, a sense that memory might be more than a mere function of the brain. Perhaps it's a bridge, a thread connecting us to something beyond the tangible, something timeless. That elderly soul by the window, lost in their endless summer day, might not just be remembering, they might be reaching for something, or someone, that still lingers just out of sight. Take a moment to reflect on this. What memory plays on a loop in your own mind? Is it a moment of joy, of loss, or something so mundane that its persistence puzzles you? Why does it return, unbidden, in the quiet hours? Is it a shield, a sanctuary, or something else entirely? A message, perhaps, waiting to be understood. And so we wonder, are these loops of memory a gift or a burden? Do they anchor us to who we are, or do they trap us in a past we cannot escape? For the one by the window, the answer might lie in the way their gaze softens with each replay, as if that summer day holds a truth they've yet to fully grasp. Maybe the mind returns to these moments not to torment, but to teach, to remind us that even in the vast expanse of a lifetime, there are fragments so precious, so heavy with meaning, that they demand to be felt again and again. Or perhaps, in its silent wisdom, memory knows that to let go of these loops would be to let go of ourselves, to surrender to the great forgetting that awaits us all. In the end, these endless replays might be the mind's quiet rebellion against the march of time, a whisper that says, "This mattered, this will always matter." Imagine for a moment that you've walked the same path 1,000 times, each step tracing the ghost of the one before, until the rhythm of your life feels like a song stuck on repeat. What if, one day, you noticed a crack in the pattern, a fleeting chance to step off the worn trail and into the unknown? Would you take it, even if it meant leaving behind everything familiar, or would you cling to the safety of the cycle, no matter how confining it feels? This is the question that haunts us as we stand at the precipice of change, gazing into the abyss of possibility. The loops of our lives, those endless repetitions of habit, thought, and circumstance, can feel like both a cage and a cradle. They bind us with their predictability, offering the illusion of stability in a world that often feels chaotic and untamed. Yet, deep within, there is a whisper, a quiet yearning to break free, to see what lies beyond the curve of the circle that has defined us for so long. Consider the story of a woman named Elara, who lived in a small, unchanging village nestled between ancient hills. Every morning, she rose at dawn to fetch water from the same well, her footsteps carving a groove into the earth over years of repetition. Every evening, she sat by the same fire, weaving baskets with the same worn hands, her life a perfect loop of quiet routine. To the outside eye, her existence seemed peaceful, even enviable in its simplicity. But within her, a storm brewed, a longing she could not name, a sense that she was meant for something beyond the endless return of her days. One twilight, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of molten gold, she noticed a narrow path veering away from her usual route, a trail she swore had never been there before. It wound into the forest, disappearing into shadows that seemed to hum with secrets. Her heart quickened. To follow it would mean abandoning the rhythm she knew, the safety of the known, the comfort of her village's unchanging heartbeat. To stay would mean silencing that restless whisper within her forever. What would you do in her place? Would you risk the uncertainty of the untrodden path, knowing that freedom often comes cloaked in fear? Or would you turn back, choosing the warmth of repetition over the cold unknown? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of that choice, the pull of both safety and longing, as if you stood at that very crossroads now. Elara hesitated, her hand clutching the familiar handle of her water jug as if it were an anchor. She thought of her mother, who had walked the same path before her, and her grandmother before that, a lineage of loops stretching back through time. Breaking the cycle felt not just like a personal betrayal, but a severance of something ancient, something sacred. Yet, as the shadows of the forest path deepened, she felt a pull stronger than duty, a call to discover who she might be, beyond the woman who fetched water and wove baskets. In that moment, she understood that freedom is not merely the absence of chains, but the courage to face the void where no pattern exists to guide you. To step outside the loop is to confront the raw, unscripted nature of existence itself, where every choice is a leap into the dark, And so we must ask ourselves, are we truly bound by the cycles we inhabit, or do we bind ourselves to them out of fear? Is repetition a prison forged by forces beyond our control, or a shelter we build to shield us from the chaos of change? Perhaps the loops of our lives are neither wholly curse nor comfort, but a mirror reflecting our deepest struggle. The tension between the desire for certainty and the hunger for transformation. Elara's story is not so different from our own. Each of us, at some point, encounters that shadowy path, that fleeting chance to step beyond the familiar. The question is not whether the loop can be broken, but whether we are willing to bear the cost of breaking it. Take a moment to linger here. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of your own cycle, gazing into the unknown. What do you fear losing if you step forward? What might you gain if you dare to leave the circle behind? Let these questions drift through your mind like leaves, on a quiet stream, carrying you deeper into the stillness of your own thoughts. Freedom, if it exists, is not a destination, but a journey, a series of choices, each one a step away from the worn grooves of yesterday. It is the willingness to embrace uncertainty, to let go of the script we've memorized, and to write a new story in a language we do not yet understand. Whether Elara took that path into the forest, we may never know, but her hesitation, her longing, her quiet battle at the crossroads, these are the threads that weave through every human heart. As the night deepens and the world grows still, let us ponder the loops that shape us. Are they chains to be shattered, or are they the very rhythms that give our lives meaning? The answer, perhaps, lies not in escaping the cycle, but in choosing how we dance within it. As the day surrenders to the tender embrace of dusk, imagine a solitary figure tracing a circular path along the edge of a quiet meadow. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of earth and fading light, and each step they take seems to echo a rhythm as old as time itself. Are they wandering aimlessly, caught in an unseen snare of repetition? Or have they found a kind of solace in this endless return? This moment, suspended between day and night, invites us to linger on a final, gentle thought. Are the loops that shape our lives prisons that confine us, or are they protectors, guiding us back to something we've always known? Consider the nature of a circle, how it folds in on itself with no beginning and no end. It is a shape that haunts our existence, appearing in the orbits of planets, the cycles of seasons, even the quiet patterns of our breath. There is a strange comfort in this repetition, a familiarity that wraps around us like a warm blanket on a cold night. We return to the same thoughts, the same places, the same faces, as if drawn by an invisible thread. But there is also a shadow to this comfort, a whisper of confinement. What if this circle is not a path but a cage, its curves so subtle we mistake them for freedom? What if every step forward is merely a step back to where we began? Picture that lone figure again, their silhouettes softening against the twilight. Perhaps they walk this circular path every evening, their feet wearing a groove into the earth, a silent testament to countless journeys that lead nowhere or everywhere. Maybe they are a farmer returning from the fields, their life bound to the cycles of planting and harvest, or a thinker lost in the loops of their own mind, replaying questions with no answers. Do they feel the weight of repetition, the way it anchors them to this moment, this place? Or do they find a kind of peace in knowing that tomorrow will mirror today, that the circle will hold them steady even as the world shifts beneath their feet? Take a moment to reflect on this. What loops do you walk in your own life? Are there paths you tread without thought, habits or memories that draw you back again and again? Perhaps it is the way you wake each morning, reaching for the same cup, the same routine, as if to reassure yourself that some things never change. Or maybe it is a deeper cycle, a longing or a loss that returns to you in quiet hours, as persistent as the tide. Do these repetitions bind you, or do they shelter you from the uncertainty of what lies beyond the curve? There is a duality to loops, a tension between entrapment and belonging. In ancient stories, circles were often symbols of protection, rings of stone, sacred boundaries drawn to keep out the unknown. Yet they were also traps, enchanted rings in fairy tales that held wanderers captive until some riddle was solved, some truth uncovered. So it is with us. The cycles we live in might shield us from chaos, offering a rhythm we can lean into when the world feels too vast, too unpredictable. But they can also blind us to what lies outside, to the possibility of a path that does not bend back on itself. Are we content to stay within the circle, or do we dare to step beyond its edge, knowing we might never find our way back? As the twilight deepens, the figure on the meadow slows their pace, pausing at the point where the path completes its arc. They stand still, gazing into the gathering dark, as if searching for a sign, a whisper of whether to continue or to stray. The night offers no answers, only silence, and in that silence, there is space for wonder. Perhaps the loop is neither prison nor protector, but something else entirely. A mirror, reflecting back to us the questions we carry in our bones. What do we return to, and why? What keeps us walking this endless curve? And what might we find if we chose, just once, to draw a line instead? Let this thought linger as the world grows still around you. Imagine yourself on that circular path, the dusk settling over your shoulders like a quiet companion. Feel the weight of each step, the pull of the familiar, and ask yourself if this loop is a burden, or if, in some unspoken way, it is simply home. In the stillness of this night, there is no need for answers, only for the gentle act of wondering. Let the circle hold you for now, as you drift into whatever dreams or silences await.